Just real quickly before I dismiss our children's church and all, you go back because my mind is kind of keyed up and geared up for the anniversary of ourselves here. 29 years beginning today, on the day. Just quickly, would have liked Mary Sirakaput to be here, as I said, because it was the Tuesday of this week, 29 years ago, that I was given two names to call. And I just went alphabetically. I thought I was calling one name. Well, I'll tell you, it was Saragotis, and it was actually the phone number for Sirakaput. And I called Tuesday afternoon, and I got we identified ourselves, Mary Sirakaput, and Pastor Joe, and we're scheduled to come up for service on Sunday, and very appreciative. They were having prayer service. It was their weekly prayer meeting, and they were praying for whomever the district would send to speak for them. They were without a pastor, so that was our phone call, and it was a very cordial phone call. I got a little last-minute detail of direction. I can make this admission to you. I think it's okay. I was born and raised in Elizabeth, but we were so provincial going back in my day that I didn't even know where Livingston was. Today, it's transient. You're all over the place. But I didn't know, so I had to get some directions. We came. Full Gospel Church is, as the crow flies, about 1 mile from here, just west of the circle, 1 block to the traffic light, Walnut Street there, and that's where the Full Gospel Church, they had their beginning actually in the white building on the circle, the Mason building, Masonic Lodge, is where they began. They were up from the Bethel Assembly of God Church in Newark, and they had migrated this way, and this was their beginning. Well, we went into church that Sunday morning, Marlene and I, and we got there about 10:15 or so, just about the regular time here. And John Sirakaput, Jeannie's dad, was up in the front, and there were 4 people he was giving the adult Sunday school lesson to. And we came in and sat in the back and waited. He concluded. John came back. And those who know Brother John, remember Brother John? How many remember Brother John? With his little crew cut all the time? He came back. He was almost like a military man, and he said, "Okay, it's yours." And a little strange handing over. "Okay, it's mine." What do you mean, Brother John? It's yours. It's mine. You mean song service, offering, prayer, preaching? It's mine. I don't know, Jeannie, I think you were in Arizona at that time, so I know you weren't around. But anyway, that's what we did. It's a good thing we were familiar with the songbooks, and we were able to select some songs, had prayer, and first I said to him, "Well, we'll wait until the children come up." He said, "There are no children." There was the 4 he was speaking to in the front, which was Jim and Louise and Sister Miller and Mary, and John was a teacher. So, okay. So we felt, well, God had called us up, and we had a message prepared. He allowed me to prepare a message, and so I was going to preach like there were 50 instead of 5. And we did, and I'll reenact the scene and all. And of course, you know, when I speak, it's very responsive. I was looking and hoping for an amen in there somewhere. Thank you, Brother Steve. And so I concluded the service as we usually do, and I came down, and I got no greeting. And Marlene, they never asked Marlene to come to the front or move. She sat in the back on that side, and they were over here on this side. And so I came down, and they got like in a football huddle. So I'm thinking, well, maybe they're thinking, what should we do? Get together? What are we going to pay this guy? Or I don't know what they were thinking. But as I went by them, just about where Angela's sitting there, where they were just about in that row, and in my ear, and I heard something, and it was, we do it now or later. Now or later. Almost sounded like the Sunoco ad I gave you last week. You're going to do it now, you're going to do it later. But anyway. And I quickly picked it up, and I said, I stopped. And I said, I didn't know if it was reference to me. And they said, we're closing the church. Closing the church. Well, philosophically. You got that word? Philosophically. And I'm going to tell you why in a moment. I said, we're not called to open or close churches. That's God's business. Philosophically is all I said. See, I was assistant pastor at Evangel Church, which was then on Broad Street. Now it's in Scotch Plains. I was assistant pastor for them for 17 years. And my Sunday school class averaged 125. I was responsible for all of the education of the church, so I knew I couldn't run away real quick. But I said to them, and I don't even know why I said it to them. I said, I saw the sign as you were coming in. We'll keep the lights on, and we'll pray, and I'll stay with you, see what God wants us to do. I'll ask my board if I could be released for a couple of weeks or so, and that was it. They agreed. I played the accordion, so I had no problem doing the song service as far as hymns and choruses. No problem at all. So we started. We came up that Wednesday. We had devotion, prayer, Sunday, devotion, song service, prayer. Following Wednesday, same thing. The following Sunday, the same thing. Following Wednesday, so that's 3 Wednesdays and 2 Sundays. And I tell you this because I just rejoice in how God takes your life when you don't even know what you're doing. And on the 3rd Sunday, a family walked into church, 3 children. And they sat again. I guess this right side was attractive. And they came in, and I wanted to be original, and I didn't even know that God was going to give me these words. And I went up to them real quickly, and I said, welcome to a growing church. She froze me. Now, there's a tremendous story, and I want to I got a message for you, and I want to deliver it. But it's tremendous. It was Sue Whitman, Jim, and the family. Jim was a physicist at Hoffman LaRoche. And she looked at me, and she said, Pastor, I don't know you. I don't know what's going on with the church, but we're only here because God sent us. You know how many goosebumps I got? Does God still do that? They came in and we talked at the end of the service, and I said, I got Mary Sarakaput, I got Marlene, my wife, and I got the mother. Had three children. I said, what do you think we're having next Sunday? Not children's church. That didn't even exist yet. I go, if you got to fit it, remember how old I am. Sunday school. Sunday school, which was the big impetus of the church. In fact, Sunday schools were larger than churches when I went to Sunday school. So I said, we're having Sunday school next week. Mary, you've got this one. Marlene, you've got this one. And Sue, you've got this one. Anyway, make a long story short, that was the beginning. 17 consecutive weeks. There was not one week that God didn't send somebody to that church. By the end of the summer, I had to do something with Evangel Church. I had to go back to the board and keep asking for extension. Working 2 churches and working a job and the whole thing. And I tried my best to get it. But by the end of August, we were averaging 55. I said, I'll ask the board. I'd like to take you through a holiday season, but we'll keep looking for coverage. And we got evangelists to come in. We got older people, younger people, just to see whom God would select. And by Thanksgiving, having a great, and I don't know how many of you are here that would, I guess you wouldn't be here, but we had our first even production for Christmas, and by this time the church was averaging 92. Now, if you know Old Road and you know that it only seats 90, you could imagine. Now, it's tremendous history. I don't have time to take you into it right now, but I'll just give you leaps and bounds from it. It wasn't long before that, long after that, that we had the family come in, for Stoles. And not knowing even some of that, he built custom homes. And he kept hearing me say, we got to do something with the basement. We got to make it Sunday school rooms. We got to make it conducive, this and that. He walked up to me one Sunday and he said, "What is it that you really want?" And I shared with him. He said, "When do you want to buy?" He said, "I'd like to have it by Christmas if we can." He said, "I'll take care of it." Folks, I want to hear the testimony loud and clear. And contractors that are here, loud and clear. Materials, workers, on time. We had that thing, not one penny charged to the church, just from the heart of God from them. I didn't know them. They didn't know me. They had just come into church, and we got what would be equivalent right now. What can't be equivalent, but at that time, over $20,000 to fix up that whole basement of classrooms, et cetera, assignments. You would not believe. And see, all these things you wouldn't know, but in my heart, they're going round and round and saying what God had brought us to. We had the largest Ranger troop in New Jersey in that building, Troop 77. We had the largest missionette group in the state of New Jersey in that. I'm not taking any credit for it. I'm telling you what God did, really, in a sense, in spite of me. I was principal of a high school, and I was principal and pastor simultaneously for 15 years. I maintained my job. I backed away from Evangel Church, and eventually people started coming. You'll remember names like Bob Santasanio. In fact, Bob won't mind me saying it to you at all. Bob came in with a very, very, well, we would call a marriage that was about to break up what was already broken. And that marriage was restored, and as you know, he became my assistant for 5 years, and now he's been in the ministry and presently in Connecticut. Josh Yang, remember Josh Yang? Josh Yang already had a degree. He came in, and he felt the Lord wanted him to minister to Chinese people. And eventually, long story short, he went to California and started a Chinese work. Eventually, he came back to Illinois. And I want you to listen if you were listening to me. Open your ears to see what I was saying before. He comes back to Wheaton College for clinical psychology because he found out that he'd be more effective as a clinical psychologist to the Chinese people than as a pastor. He came back, he enrolled in school, and he now had to get a job commensurate with what he's studying. And he goes and gets a job, and the woman gives him an application, and he fills it out, and she says to him, Full Gospel Church, New Jersey. You mean Pastor Joe? Well, long story short, he got the job like that. Thank you. But that was Sue Whitman, the first family that came into the church at Old Road. And she was responsible for the hiring. Is God good? I mean, examine your life when you even hear the message today about, we're going to be speaking about things you know very well. But see, God is in charge all the time. Sometimes we don't know what's happening in our lives. But He's planned our life. And He just wants to walk in those steps. Amen? Oh, man. I can't. When we married Josh and Esther and married, I want to say something before about Dean. Dean is very familiar to the stage. We call it a stage, platform. Because early on, many of the children, Dina, familiar to this platform, and others, because of that reason of being with a church that lifted them up as we went along. And that's how I want you to feel. You heard the song. You heard the words of that song. You heard even what our song service today, grace, God's grace. That's what's surrounding our lives. See, there's so many memories we got of that. And then coming into this building, Sister Helen, I marvel. I don't know what else to say. It was Valentine's Day. Many of you remember Sister Stella, right? Sister Stella was the matriarch of this building. And this was the 1964, I believe, right? And built by themselves and for the glory of God and the Church of the Living God, etc. And she asked me a simple question about, do I know a Christian attorney? Well, I would tell you loud and clear that a lot of Christian attorneys I wouldn't send you to, but okay. Yes, I do. And Sister Helen came, Sister Loretta, Blanas, and Sister Stella. And walk into the attorney's office, and you only have to know Sister Stella, And she says to the attorney, "Do you have any papers to give him my church?" I don't know if you listen to me or not. I was totally unaware of, I was bringing, I thought, for a will. I had no idea. We're in the attorney's office, and she says to him, "Is there a piece of paper that I can give him the church?" Folks, I want you to realize that. I want you to realize this church right here was not a dollar exchange, wasn't even a handshake. It was word of mouth to say, "I want to give Full Gospel Church this building." Do you know you got this for nothing? No, I want to know. Do you know you got it for nothing? Well, that building fund should be going up right now. You owe an awful lot. Yeah? See, there is so much to this, and even prior to coming here, we were 16 years in traveling back and forth. We lived in Edison. I was principal of Hoffman High School, South Amboy. Traveling back and forth, 16 years. Boy, Rachel, you remember this, I'm sure. That was Sunday afternoon. We went out, again, almost exhausted with the board because they tried with diligence to get us a place to live up here. And we were coming back on Hillside Avenue, and where the parsonage is now. And the little sign about that for sale by owner, 2 to 4. It was 10 minutes to 4. Rachel sitting in the back seat. We went by it. Brakes hit. I backed up. Pulled in the driveway. We got 10 minutes if we're going to honor the sign. We go and ring the doorbell. Get to the people. And Rach, what a reception, right? Couldn't open my mouth. Couldn't say too much. They were selling it as individual. And we negotiated just real quickly. And said we'll be back. I got to, of course, notify the board. The board had already gone out, and we've been looking. I don't know how many houses we looked at and how many places. But we met, and I notified them all. And the next night we went up. Now this is a glorious story too. Oh, I'm taking all my time, but on word of mouth. In one meeting with them, they came down $16,000 to sell the parsonage to the church. I thought I was talking to myself. That's $16,000 more you owe me. See, God is so good in so many ways. You don't. That's like I don't know your life. I don't know your experiences. But I'm saying, I am filled up this beginning of the 29th year, and this has been unbelievably glorious in every which way. There's so many incidents that the board members would know about, our own selves, the many that dedicated, married. I say this often. I'm probably the only pastor that many of you have known, and I hope I represented the right kind of pastor for the glory of God. So that's been my heart's desire.